You know, one of the most iconic brands on the planet is in the fight of its life right now. And this isn't just about selling a few more cans of soda. Nope, we're talking about a high-stakes, billion-dollar battle for relevance as the entire world rethinks its relationship with health.
So check this out. A recent survey of health experts just laid bare this massive shift that's sending shockwaves through the entire food and beverage industry. Look at that. Over half pointed to the explosion of GLP-1 medications, like Ozempic, as the single biggest trend to watch. And right behind it, this powerful idea of food as medicine. It tells you everything you need to know. Consumers aren't just buying drinks anymore. They're buying actual benefits. All right, so here's how we're going to break this whole thing down. We'll start with this new health revolution, then we'll diagnose Coca-Cola's big growth problem. After that, we'll see how they're fighting back, put it all into the context of the wider economy, and then wrap it up with the key takeaway for anyone watching these trends. Okay, first up, we really need to get a handle on the seismic shift that's happening in health and wellness. And let me be clear, this is not just some fad. This is a deep, fundamental change in what people care about.
And a huge piece of this puzzle is this concept of food as medicine. People are literally looking for functional ingredients in their food now. They want things like high fiber and plant-based options, not just because they taste good, but as a real tool to manage their long-term health. We've moved from just passive eating to active wellness.
So, in a world that's suddenly obsessed with gut health and getting benefits from their drinks, what does that mean for a giant that was built on sugar and fizz? Let's take a look at the incredible pressure this is putting on a titan like Coca-Cola. So what does that pressure actually look like? Well, it boils down to this one single number, 1%. That's it. That's the entire global volume growth that Coca-Cola reported. Now, for a company that is built on constant, massive expansion, a number that small is a huge red flag for its core business. And this table, man, it just lays the problem bare. Take a look. Sparkling soft drinks, their bread and butter for a century, are showing 0% growth, flat. And it gets worse. Juice and dairy are actually shrinking, down 3%. The only real bright spots? Water, sports drinks, coffee, the very categories that happen to line up perfectly with this new wellness wave. But listen. Coca-Cola is a heavyweight champion for a reason. They are not just sitting back and watching this happen. Oh, no. They're launching a major counteroffensive, and they're aiming right at the heart of this new functional beverage market. You can really see the pivot in action on this slide. On one side, you've got the old guard, the classic soda that's just facing flat demand. And on the other, you have the new guard, brands like Olipop and BodyArmor Lyte, which were engineered from the ground up for today's health-conscious consumer. Let's take a look at their new arsenal. They're rolling out Olipop, which is a prebiotic soda with 6 grams of fiber, designed to go head-to-head with those trendy disruptor brands like Olipop. They're pushing BodyArmor Lyte for hydration and beefing up their existing wellness lines. But this is a high-stakes gamble. The cost to launch and market these new brands is enormous, and there's always the risk they just end up stealing sales from their own existing products. All right, we're about to pull back and look at the big economic picture here. But before we do that, if you're getting some value out of this breakdown, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Stock Market Mojo. It really helps us keep making explainers on the market forces you need to know about. The innovation is definitely there, and the strategy, it makes sense on paper. But it raises the big, critical question for any investor watching this space. Is just launching a bunch of new products actually enough to guarantee a win? And to even begin to answer that, we have to zoom way out. Because no company operates in a vacuum, and Coke's battle is happening right in the middle of a really challenging economic landscape. So first, the big picture. According to J.P. Morgan, the U.S. economy is expected to grow, but at a pretty slow and steady pace of just 1.28%. It grows, sure, but it's not the kind of boom that lifts all boats. And at the exact same time, you've got this sticky inflation that just won't quit, forecasted to stay in the upper 2% range. That constant pressure on prices directly squeezes family budgets, and it makes people think twice about every single purchase they make. So you end up with this really tricky mix of factors, right? Consumer spending is hanging in there, but it's strained. We might get a modest little boost from new tax laws, but that's happening against a backdrop of tariff uncertainty and a cooling job market. It's just a tough environment to be launching premium new products into. All right, let's bring it all home. We've talked about the health revolution, Coke's big strategic moves, the economic headwinds, so let's distill it all down to the key takeaway for investors. One market analyst really just hit the nail on the head. What we're watching here is the timeless, enduring challenge of taking a legacy brand, a 100-year-old icon, and making it fit for a future where what consumers want has completely and totally changed. And really, it all boils down to a two-front war. Success is no longer just about launching a cool new prebiotic soda. Coca-Cola has to innovate for these new health demands while at the same time navigating a fragile global economy where every single consumer dollar is being fiercely fought over. And that leaves us with one final provocative thought to chew on. In a world that's increasingly defined by things like GLP-1s and these disruptive wellness brands like Olipop, where exactly does a legacy brand find its new mojo? Thanks so much for watching this breakdown. If you want to see how other giants are tackling these exact same challenges and get more deep dives into the forces shaping our markets, make sure you're subscribed to the Stock Market Mojo YouTube channel.